The UCAT is arguably one of the hardest exams you'll ever have to sit to get into medical school. That's why so many people every year fail to achieve a score that's competitive enough. Thankfully, even if you don't have that perfect score of the 99th percentile, there are still options to get into medicine. And today I'll show you exactly how. Hey guys, my name's Owen and I'm a first year medical student studying at Monash University. In 2022, I sadly did not do as well as I wanted in the UCAT. This was one of my first major academic setbacks in a long time, and for a while I was quite scared that I wouldn't get into my dream course. Of course, as a rural student, I luckily managed to get a place, but I still wanted to share my experience today because I don't think there's enough stories out there to tell about the hardships in the process of getting into medicine. Today I'll run through a brief overview of the UCAT, I'll break down all my scores and then give you some advice on how you should apply to medical school even if you don't get the scores that you want. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so if you're watching this video, you probably already know what the UCAT is, but for those who don't, the University Clinical Aptitude Test, or UCAT, is a 2-hour online computer-based exam for medicine and dentistry students. It's an exam usually in July or August each year at a special testing centre, and it tests cognitive ability for areas considered important in health-related careers. It is broken down into 5 subtests, which are verbal reasoning, decision-making, quantitative reasoning, abstract reasoning, and situational judgment, and the total is scored out of a mark of 3,600. To give you a quick idea of the 5 different subtests, verbal reasoning tests reading comprehension, decision making tests problem solving ability, quantitative reasoning tests mathematical ability, abstract reasoning tests pattern recognition, and situational judgment tests ethical reasoning. The most challenging thing about the UCAT is that it's so time pressured. The questions themselves are actually quite easy, but because you have to complete them each within a matter of seconds, it becomes really difficult. As with a lot of other exams, you're actually ranked against other participants in the UCAT, so a good score is around 3,000 or the 90th percentile, but do keep in mind that this does change from year to year. Also, with your situational judgment scores, this isn't actually considered in most medical applications, but it's still good to do as best as you can. If you want to try a free simulated UCAT exam to see what it's all about, check out the link in the description below and have a go for yourself. And now for the ultimate but slightly depressing reveal of my UCAT. In verbal reasoning, I got a 650, in decision making a 660, quantitative reasoning an 810, abstract reasoning a 650, giving me a total score of 2,700, or around the 69th percentile for that year. And my situational judgment score was a 702. Remember that the scores for all of these subtests are expressed as a scale score from 300 to 900, and these scale scores do vary from year to year, so it's good to keep an eye on the UCAT page, which you can find in the link in the description. Overall, I would say that I did find the test quite difficult on the day. I did find that verbal reasoning was the most difficult subtest for me, which is kind of funny because English actually was my best subject in high school. So there you go. But in terms of the exam itself, I got my results emailed to me pretty much 10 minutes after I finished, which was crazy. I was quite nervous on the day, but I did the exam with a friend, which was nice because we were both in the same boat together. As for the difficulty in comparison to my preparation material with MedEntry, I would say that the difficulty of the subtests were mostly on par with each other. The only standout ones to me were verbal reasoning, which I found much trickier, as shown in my scores, and quantitative reasoning, which was actually a lot easier for me personally. Okay, so now for my mistakes in preparing for the UCAT. Firstly, I didn't prepare well in advance. The UCAT is not actually an IQ test, you do need to prepare for it, and for most people I would recommend 6 months or even more than that, because you really just need to get into the habit of doing questions, and the holidays is a perfect time to start for most people. My second fallback in UCAT preparation was not reflecting on my mistakes. It's fine to do heaps of practice questions, but if you're never seeing where you're going wrong, you're not actually going to improve. My third mistake was not reaching out for help. During the day of the exam, I actually ended up with a faulty keyboard. If I had actually reached out and asked for a new keyboard, I might have saved a lot of time in my exam and ended up with a better result. And before we head into my advice on how to enter med even with a bad UCAT, please smash that like button and subscribe because it really helps this video and to grow the channel. Alright, so my advice if you don't have the best UCAT. Firstly, switch your mindset. Of course, take some time to rest and rewind first because you've worked really hard for this test, but I wouldn't dwell upon bad scores. Your ATAR and interviews will come up quickly, so really you want to focus on these to maximize your chances of getting in. Secondly, figure out if you're a rural student. If you haven't done this yet, now is the time. Being a rural student hugely improves your chances of getting in, and thankfully this was the case for me as a rural student from Cairns. If you want to check out your rurality status, definitely check out the link in the description. Finally, think about a plan B. Even if you get an amazing ATAR and do an awesome interview, your chances of getting into medicine aren't guaranteed, so it's always worth thinking about backup options. Luckily, there are heaps to consider, which I'll list right now. Firstly, you can take a gap year to resit the UCAT, which I personally know a lot of people have done. During this time, it's also really good to get out and do some volunteering so you can see what the healthcare profession is all about. Secondly, you can apply to a postgraduate pathway for medicine. Keep in mind that this will take a couple extra years depending on where you go, and you also may need to sit an exam called the GAMSAT. Your other option is to also apply to JCU or Bond University in Australia, which are the two universities in Australia that actually don't require you to sit the UCAT. In the end, remember that the UCAT is an extremely challenging test, and many thousands of applicants throughout Australia each year struggle with this. It's not the end of the world if you don't do as well as you expected, but try to consider reframing your mindset so you can focus on your future goals. Failures are often the first step to success, so don't give up. Talk to people to see if medicine is the right course for you. And just remember that as long as you have the passion and commitment in life, you'll get where you want to be. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. If you want to see a step-by-step guide about how to get into medicine as an undergraduate applicant in Australia, check out the video up there. But otherwise, I'll see you next week for a very exciting video, so keep posted for that. Until then, have fun, keep studying, and I'll see you next time. Peace.